Hey, welcome back to the channel. We're going to be working on some cribbing for the Miata today, but first we have to unpack my new toy. Years ago when I owned a shop, we used to have some scales, and I've been scaleless for a long time, so I picked this up from Amazon, these Proforms, and we're going to open these up. The plan is to be able to set the scales on top of the cribbing. We're going to make some 12-inch cribbing to get the Miata in the air so I can do the alignment. And I picked these up at my local Lowe's. They're 16 by 16. The idea is if I make my cribbing this big, and this will just be a piece on top that I can set in. That way I will have plenty of room for slip angle on the tire. I can just put a little grease or grab another tile and put underneath. So let's unpack these scales first here, see what we can come up with. Pretty nice. Got the instructions here. And this actually comes with a nice little case, which will be great. Let's get a scale out so we can measure it. Pretty nice setup. Got a little handle. Allows me to roll these around the shop. And I bought the ones with the case because then I've actually got somewhere to store them. Oh, it looks like all the batteries come inserted into here. I'm not going to set these up today. We can do a review a little later when we actually start scaling. What I really wanted to do is I wanted to get one of these out. It looks like I've got a battery pack that's floating around here. But I wanted to just get one out. Oh, that's really light. So I can just check dimensions from a pad perspective, because I want this to be able to sit on top of the pad if I can. And looking pretty good. Now my tile was 16 by 16, so this will fit just fine. So let's get making on some cribbing. We're all about doing things cheaper here, so I've got these 2x4s that are left over from another project. And we're just gonna cut these to 16-inch lengths and we're gonna start assembling. So let's get you set up. It's best to draw up what we're doing first here. So the plan is to go 12 inches tall. And I'm just gonna use 2x4, so 3.5 by roughly 1.5 inches, right? So this is the idea. You just kind of keep stacking them, and then the top's going to have an insert. So this is going to be 6 inches right here, so it'd be double this for 12. And right now my height, full free span is about 12, and I can get at my control arm real easy. We come over to here. Here I've got the one tire on. If I were to even just make them 6 inches tall, which if we do that, the suspension will compress, and that'll get me, it's pretty much going to be on the ground, which is a little low. So you can see 9 inches is there. So now that I'm looking at this, I'll probably go 9 inches. That gives me enough room to get underneath, but then I can still get my jack stands and stuff out, get the suspension. So we're going to go 9 inches, which means on this design over here, I got to make more layers, because these are all going to be 1.75 inches thick. So that's going to be 3, that'll be 6, so it'll be 2 more layers for, it'll be 9 inches total. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 layers. The top one is going to have a 16 by 16, probably 3/4 or 1/2 inch plywood. I'll see what I got around, with 11-inch spacing in the middle, so that way it sits down and positively locks in. You can see there the idea is to have it lock into place. And then this will be just that nice slate tile filled in here. And I can just throw out another piece of linoleum the other way, and then I'll have a nice turntable for adjusting alignment. And being 16 inches, the tire is not going to slip off, especially if I keep it centered. These scales are 15 inches by 15 inches, so that way when I'm done, I can slip the scales underneath. Granted, I got to make sure everything's level, so I may have to shim underneath, but the floor's pretty level. So next thing we're going to do is we're going to grab the wood over here and start cutting. So here I'm just grabbing some wood and stacking it up, and I'm cleaning up the end so that way I can actually make one cut and then double it down. And I'm just using a quick speed square and measuring out at 17.5 inches, because when my saw runs, it actually ends up being exactly 16 inches. We're going to go a little over 9 inches on the cribbing height. I don't want it too high off the ground. So this ends up being like 9.25. Plus you figure the wheel is going to sit on top of a platform. That's going to be removable, so that way the wheel will sit down in if I'm doing some heavy work, but just alignment and whatnot, stuff where I'm going to be near the car, I can put that platform, and the platform is going to sit into place. So that'll give me, with the platform, roughly call it 10 inches off the ground. There should be enough room to be able to get a ratchet in here, considering the body's going to be another 3.5 to 4 inches up from the tire. So I'll get plenty of room to swing a ratchet to tighten up bushings. So now we're going to use some 2.5 inch screws. And the idea is just tie them together every two. So boom, 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 build a square. Here you can watch me assemble this first one. What I'm doing is I'm actually putting one screw in each corner to make roughly a square. And then I'm measuring the diagonals to actually make sure it ends up perfectly square. And now we just start stacking it up. So you add some more, you add 2 and 2 and 2 and 2, and just keep building your way up until you're all the way done. Now on this design, because I'm doing 9 inches of cribbing, it'll be roughly 12 boards. And then I actually ended up putting up some 2x6s at the end, which you'll see here in a moment. So there's one setup. Now, if I wanted to just lift the car, it could easily sit in the spacing here, and then I would have nice safety, because 9-inch wide tire fits right in there. But we're going to put the caps on it now, and we're going to build the other 3 cribs first. So when I come back, we'll have the other ones built, and then we'll do the tops.
The next day.
Welcome back. Next day I had to do some tree trimming, so let's see where we're at on this process. Got the first one done. An example of the removable top, so that way I can put the tire in, and then this will just kick out of the way. Made some design changes here. So I cut the rest of the stacks, and that's how we go through it. 16-inch length 2x4s, there's 12 of them. 16-inch length 2x6s, if you will, 2 of those. And then 2 of these little just under 9-inch spacers, as well as a 16x16 top plate. So now that the rest of the 3 are cut, and this is actually an 18x18 tile that I just cut down with a knife to size. Let's get over to the workbench and show you. Let's do some assembly. Got the first one set up here on the workbench. Just makeshift workbench here, but again, we're just going to screw this together. We'll set you up on the boat so you can see. I figured a point of view from my wire spool rack, which I may show in another video, is a better place to place the camera. Here I've already squared the edge. I'm just going to use a speed square to get it really close. And it's the same principle as I was talking through the other cribbing. Put a screw in each corner and then measure the corners diagonally, which in this particular example, the 16x16, you end up at like 28.5, just a 16th over that actually, to make sure you're square. Once you square the edges, and I'm just adding the screws, you will be able to just quickly stack the rest of it together, and it goes together very, very quickly. Here's what I didn't show in the other video is I take the 9-inch boards and I set them in place. Then put the 16x16 half-inch plywood on top, screw it down with some 1.25-inch screws, add the linoleum to the top. Then here I'm screwing the 2x6s on the bottom, flip it back over, and then just cut the edges square, and you are pretty much all set. That'll fit right on top of the cribbing, and it's removable. Another finished one. So we got 2 down. And we'll just build the other 2 and then bring you back for when we set underneath the car. So there you have it. 4 cribbing with removable top, so I can put the scales and just set up caster and camber and everything in the Miata. So thanks for tuning in. Next episode, we'll get the Miata up on the cribbing and we'll work on the alignment.